The most important asset in the age of AI is your content. And what people think has been holding AI back so far, it has nothing to do with the models, but has everything to do with the context that underpins it. And that's exactly what Box is solving. So we're here at BoxWorks in London, their big European event, to find out why. Here we're over on the Box Automate platform, and we're going to be heading over to create a new custom extraction agent. And what this essentially will do is we can point it at a given file type. So in this case, we've got master services agreements, and we can actually add these from our Box drive. We can select these and actually upload them to the agent itself. And now what we can do is we can actually create a metadata template. So we're actually using Box AI's agent to do this for us. And what it's able to do is it's essentially extracted all the key metadata templates. We can also specify the type of agent that we're using to do the classification work. And here we can actually point it at new folders. So we're going to be pointing at a brand new set of different MSAs that have recently come into our company. And because we've essentially already trained this agent on what MSAs look like, we've already set up all the key metadata templates. Now, when we go ahead and actually upload all these files, it's actually able to extract all of the key attributes for all of those column headers, right? And the column headers here are just the metadata templates. We've got, the effective dates, the company names, addresses, things like that.
Companies go in and they think that they are going to have this huge AI transformation, and really what's happening is they don't prep the data and then they don't get the returns they want. What really is required is a curation of the data that AI will be working on. And what that means is a content strategy. This is the big unlock that we are seeing.
Box is also model agnostic by design. So as the gains increase from the likes of Anthropic, OpenAI, Google, as all of these models get better, they're all carried over to Box Automate, which is really important, especially if you're thinking about, for example, image classification using some of Google's models, or if you're thinking about textual reasoning using some of Anthropic's, using Claude. It essentially has the best of both worlds there. So you can actually combine the right models for the right agents. Here we're actually able to build our very own Shield agent for document classification. This is really important, especially if you want to highlight things like PII, so personally identifiable information. We're here testing on some passport documents. We've got Word documents. We've also got a few different images as well. After essentially giving it a set of very clear instructions, so these are essentially the guidelines and guardrails to inform how the agent should operate, you can then actually go and test it. After running the test itself, it was able to classify it as PII, this demonstration passport image. But when we actually scroll down to the passport.doc, there was no classification label applied. Now, it actually isn't a passport itself, but it was almost a bit of a misnomer. It was named passport. So that was actually classified correctly, which is really important there. Box's governance and permissions are built in and not bolted on. It lives within the same boundaries as your security, as your permissions, which is absolutely vital, especially if you're thinking about building something like a PII agent, right, which is able to extract all of this key metadata from a different type of document. But then when we think about actually flagging that as a PII relevant document, what that means is then you as an individual, as a practitioner, when you then go to share that document, you're actually unable to. So these sharing and security permissions are actually provisioned directly given the document type, which I think is so important.
As you look at, for instance, the evolution of AI agents and preparing for agentic AI and autonomous decision making, if organizations would just sit down and do the work and knowing what they're collecting, knowing what controls they have in place, it's going to help them to move faster.
Box are really building a platform for unstructured knowledge processing. You've got so many different data rooms and knowledge repositories out there where businesses can store their data. 90% of it is unstructured, but what Box are doing is they're building that platform for knowledge workers, for enterprises to actually make their data truly useful when it comes to extracting key information through metadata, or if it comes to building agents that are actually able to take action for you and then sit across your entire organization. All of that suddenly comes to life. That becomes really, really special, especially when you think about enterprise-grade security, governance controls, all of these things that matter enormously in big companies. You're ascending beyond basic drives to actually a platform and a system that can actually go ahead and take action for you across your data, but do it in a really thoughtful way that prioritizes security, shareability. And really what we're seeing here is that the companies that sort out that content layer really set the ceiling for how far that AI can go.